Let's begin our conversation. We're at a point in our democratic journey where there is intense scrutiny as allegations of interference, institutional bias, and democratic backsliding take center stage. The African Democratic Congress has accused the ruling All Progressives Congress of attempting to destabilize its leadership structure, claims that the APC firmly denies at the heart of the controversy is the role of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, whose decisions on party recognition and internal disputes have sparked legal questions and political backlash. And critics have now warned of a creeping slide toward one-party state, while the ruling party insists Nigeria's democracy remains vibrant and competitive. With the 2027 general elections already casting a long shadow, the stakes could not be higher for political parties, institutions, and the future of democratic contest in Nigeria. And to discuss this, everyone, I'm being joined by Mr. Felix Morka, who is the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Mr. Morka is live for us from our Lagos studio. It's a pleasure having you join us tonight, and happy Easter to you, Mr. Morka.
Easter to you, my dear friend. Good to see you.
Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Thank you so much indeed. Let's begin the conversation, Mr. Morka. Your party has been accused, and there are allegations that your party is drifting our nation into a one-party state, and that the only thing that your party wants, I'm very sure that you saw the press conference addressed by the ADC, and they are inferring that your party wants to be the only party on the ballot, that you do not want competition. Why is your party afraid if the allegations by the ADC is correct?
Thank you so much, Sheil. Now, first of all, ordinarily, that question actually should go to the ADC to ask them to furnish Nigerians with, material, with evidence of APC's complicity in their predicament. When you make an allegation, you prove it. We don't have that duty to convince anyone that we're not doing anything. But, we respond because we are a democratic party and we are a progressive party and we are Nigerians. So we feel like, whatever, however senseless the allegations may be, we say something for the benefit of Nigerians who are listening and who are watching. Not because we have a duty to do so. The political predicament that the ADC has found itself is self-inflicted. We have nothing to do with it. Now, this latest round of confusion within that party resulted from a decision of the Court of Appeal in an appeal filed by the ADC itself. Now, what exactly is the matter? ADC has apparently a long-standing member of its party who was, in fact, the deputy national chairman of that party. Now, fast forward, when David Mark, Atiku Abubakar, and all of them parachuted into that party to take it over, they did so. And apparently, one of the members of that party felt aggrieved by the way and manner he was sidelined. Because according to him, in line with their constitution, he actually was the successor to the office once the then national chairman quit his position. Now, the ADC claimed he resigned his position, but he says he didn't resign. Now, that's not for me to even mess with. That is a matter that is already before the court, and the court will adjudicate on that issue. But the question that Nigeria should ask the ADC is, how did they get here? How did Nafiu Balagombe get to the court? How did this matter even get to the courtroom at the Federal High Court? It got to the courtroom because the ADC and its leaders failed miserably to engage effectively with that individual, apparently. Now, the matter went to court. The court, in dealing with an application for an injunction, for an interim injunction, directed or ordered the ADC to show cause why that application for injunction should not be granted. Now, the ADC, rather than show cause, and actually, by the way, that court was, in fact, being very gracious in affording the ADC a hearing, an invitation to respond, to show cause why the interim application, which could have been granted without, their participation, but they were put on notice, rather than the ADC to go to that court as of September the 2nd, when the case was filed, ADC decided to rush to the appeal court to appeal nothing, really. There was nothing to appeal. There was no substantive order of court to appeal. However, ADC went to the Court of Appeal to appeal what was not in fact appealable. And in doing so, that matter was an interlocutory situation. Any lawyer, you don't have to be experienced as a lawyer to know that when appeals on an interlocutory matter is done with leave of court. You don't just appeal. It's not an appeal as of right, in the same manner that a final judgment of court is available to you as of right. But the ADC rushed to the Court of Appeal without even applying for the leave of court. Now, that is a blunder that is unforgivable. That's completely hard to understand. Even a rookie lawyer will not make that mistake. But here are these eminent citizens, highly experienced, vice president, governors, ministers. They've been everything. David Mack, former general and former senator and all of that. All of them put together could not instruct themselves to do the right thing, which is to apply for leave. They didn't do that. So the Court of Appeal dismissed that appeal as it should. And then, the next thing is, of course, by the way, the Court of Appeal also granted them a facility. Say, look, go back to court with an order of accelerated hearing to the Federal High Court to expedite action, knowing fully well that the election season was around the corner. The ADC, rather than go to the legal boardroom to figure out how to order its affairs and respond to this legal exigency, decided to rather go to the media to issue press conferences and press releases and all of that, to castigate the APC that we are responsible for their predicament. Now, Shehu, look, I don't get it. And nobody has explained it to me, how the APC gets involved in a matter that came from their failure to engage their own member and their failure to do due diligence with their litigation to contain this matter, filed in September. Now, 6 months later, a verdict was given in March, on March 12th. Shehu, 6 months on that application that was filed by originating summons could have been resolved. The substantive issues could have been settled much earlier, within 2 months at the most, could have been settled. They didn't do that. They went to Court of Appeal. They chose to waste that time. Shehu, let me say this. At this point, I'm beginning to think, quite frankly, based on the type of really, inexcusable blunders that the ADC has committed, I'm beginning to think that this is all orchestrated. That the ADC is self-sabotaging. They are sabotaging themselves because they know that there is no way in the world, they don't even have anything that resembles anything that is capable of challenging or defeating the APC. They know that. And so they are resorting now to sabotaging themselves so that they can create this state of anomie, create this, appearance of crisis. Because just yesterday or 2 days ago, I understand that they have appointed representatives to, represent the party, in capitals around the world, to literally go lobby and instigate the international community to believe erroneously that the APC is in fact disturbing the political opposition and stopping them from competing, so that whatever resultant crisis that comes can then create a situation where maybe the APC-led government is somehow removed, so they can just come and saunter in and take power. Because look at all of the individuals who are involved here. From Atiku Abubakar to Peter Obi to El Rufai to all of them. These are people who clearly failed to manage the affairs of the parties from where they came. And they've been in so many parties. And one thing that is consistent with all of those parties is their failure to handle their business in those parties, to stay, to remain, and solve the problems of their parties. No, rather, they use the revolving door to move to the next party, create more chaos, and then blame the ruling party, and then leave, go to the next party, create more chaos, and blame the ruling party. You see, I think Nigerians are smarter than this. Yes, they are smarter than this. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me jump in quickly. Now, is it coincidence? Labour Party terribly injured. People's Democratic Party decimated, terribly injured. ADC now, when this crisis happened, all the opposition figures were going into that party, and now is experiencing this kind of crisis. And this is what the ADC is inferring. They're inferring the indirect role of the APC in their crisis, and they're saying that there is a fear and paranoia in the APC, and they're using subterfuge. You are using subterfuge, and you're using fifth columnists. You are using people to instigate crisis in their party. What exactly would you say the APC is afraid of? Are you worried that you can't get into a competition in the next election, and that is why you are doing this? Because if the allegations are right, you need to be answering the Nigerian people about the reasons behind you destroying the other political party as they are alleging.
So we're doing no such thing. We have no reason to do that. You are a veteran journalist, and no one monitors election better than you do. We had the by-elections recently in the country. The ADC was a no-show. They didn't even perform dismally because they didn't perform at all. We've had several constituency elections since 2023 election. The ADC, again, did not register any impact whatsoever. Now, why would we be afraid when we have consistently won elections since 2023? All of the elections that have been conducted in this country, at whatever level, or even in the FCT, we won, brilliantly. What exactly do we have to fear? Fear a party that is a non-starter, a party that is actually almost as good as non-existent? We have nothing to fear about the ADC. You see, they are just filled with this self-appointed importance. Because after all, Atiku Abubakar was former vice president, Rotimi Amechi was a former governor, former minister, Arebeshola was former governor. They've been everything there is to be. But all of them put together, individually, they look like they are superstars, but when they come together, they are twinkle, twinkle little stars. They are making no impact whatsoever. And so there's nothing for us to fear. And by the way, Shehu, let me say that, ADC makes these allegations about the APC, interfering. What exactly, in a democracy, Shehu, you tell me, and maybe any Nigerian, can reach out to me and explain to me exactly what APC is required to do in a democracy. Just yesterday, I was joking with our national secretary, and I said to him, maybe, I'm going to, at the next meeting of our party, I'm going to probably move for the APC to set up a department within the APC for the effective management of opposition political parties. Because so far, that's all we have not done, is to, set up a system where we can then go into these parties and help them to organize themselves and manage them. Now, if that is the accusation that we have not done, then maybe we are guilty of that. We haven't done that. Maybe we should. But that's not our responsibility to do so. It is the duty of these parties. Now, if the ADC says that their members are so gullible and so malleable and so manipulable and so easily, hoodwinked and, captured, if that's what they are saying, that APC is doing that, then they need to disband. ADC needs to disband today. Because so they don't have anything to stand
now is
quite frankly.
So let me play. I'll play this tape, but I'm hoping that the producer will get this out quickly. Where the president has inferred that the failure of the opposition party will be his joy. And politically speaking, that may be right. Because if you want to win in a competition, you don't want your opposition to do as much as you do. But the fear that a lot of people are having is that we've not seen this nature of crisis in opposition political parties since the Fourth Republic began. And there are fears that if there is an erosion of opposition voices, or voices of dissent in our democracy, we are doomed. And that's the fear, that we cannot have the four pillars that hold a democracy, and we have only one pillar thriving, the others are simply not effective. The opposition, the civil society, the media, all of them being eroded and being put in some kind of fear and trepidation because the ruling party is overwhelming. Those are the kind of narrative that is being created, and it's left to you as a ruling party to be able to allay those fears. And perhaps every indices that show to that effect, maybe your party will start evidently telling Nigerians that we are not involved, because the opposition is now drawing inferences and saying there are members of your party or those that are working for your party that are doing this danger and are doing this harm to the opposition.
Look, you see, first of all, we're doing no such thing. We're not doing anything to undermine anybody. We are minding our business. We are organizing every day, convening meetings and mobilizing our people and giving them a reason to, trust our party and to work with our party. Nobody has tied the hands of anybody in ADC or in the PDP or in the Labour Party, from even going into the APC to do what they're accusing the APC of doing to them. Nobody. Assuming that, nobody is doing such a thing, but why does it lie in their mouth to suggest the things they suggested? Like I said, why would we do that when we are winning? They are not winning. They're the ones who have the reason to, in fact, create this false narrative about the APC. Now, Sheon, what we're witnessing today is not new. Now, let me remind Nigerians that in 2019, in Zamfara State, APC was completely prohibited by INEC from fielding candidates in all the positions in that state because of APC's internal crisis at the time between the then governor and other leaders who couldn't agree and had these parallel processes. The INEC came down hard on the APC, and we couldn't and we didn't file nominations or candidates for those positions throughout the entire process of that state. Same thing happened in Rivers State. We also didn't field candidates in Rivers. Now, Sheon, let me remind Nigerians that at this time in 2019, the APC was the ruling party. But we did nothing to use the power of the federal government to interfere or intervene to compel INEC to not take that decision. We complied fully with that decision, and we didn't field candidates in those two states. We didn't. We must remember that. Now, let me refer to a more recent example. In Ondo State, during our congresses, some members of our party who felt aggrieved by one or two things went to court and got an injunction. That injunction, that order of injunction, was not served on the party until after the Congress was, in fact, literally concluded in Ondo State. But when we received the order, we studied it and decided to abide by that order. We immediately dispatched a high-powered delegation to Ondo State to mediate amongst the aggrieved parties, bring them together, and then settle the issue, and then notified INEC and went ahead to conduct a fresh Congress in Ondo State, which turned out very well and was accepted by all the parties involved. Now, if we as the ruling party are obsessed with complying with the rule of law, following due process, why should ADC be, exempt from complying with due process? Why should they be awarded? Because right now, I'm sitting here speaking to you, I feel like every, speaker or commentator who is saying what you're asking me is literally saying, APC, listen, don't bother trying to win the next election. Just, go back, sit on your hands, do nothing, so the ADC can win, and that's when democracy thrives. In the cases I referred to, in Zamfara and Rivers State, the PDP was the beneficiary at that time, and the PDP held the Supreme Court and all the court decisions that stripped the APC of the power to, present candidates as, the triumph of the rule of law. Why is the ADC screaming now? Why are they saying that, accusing the APC that we're the ones responsible? Why are they not screaming triumph of the rule of law? We are not even gloating over what is going on. We are simply just, minding our business. But back then, the PDP, I can, if I do just a quick, snap research, I can show you headlines where they hailed the rule of law. So it was good for them because the APC lost, even when we're the ruling party. But now the ADC is having a self-created, problem and predicament, and the APC must just now disband because the ADC must have its way. Let me say this. In a democracy, there is no obligation, imposed on a ruling party anywhere in the world to babysit the political opposition. We don't have that obligation. Right now, the ADC is screaming and whining like they need a babysitter. That babysitter will not be the APC. They can go seek a babysitter elsewhere. We won't do that. We have no duty to do that in our democracy. And we can't be blackmailed by this emotional, nonsense that they're putting out, suggesting that we're the ones, doing the problem. We didn't register Bala, Gombe as a member of ADC. We didn't. We didn't file the case for Bala Gombe. We are not the, Federal High Court that asked them to show cause. We are not the Court of Appeal that gave a judgment. And right now, they are busy losing time again. The Court of Appeal asked that the Federal High Court accelerates hearing on that substantive matter so that hopefully they can catch up with the calendar announced by INEC. Now, instead of doing that, they're busy doing press conferences and going to Washington and going to, Germany and London to, field representatives. Now, by the time the entire time is up, again, they will call President Tinubu that he is responsible and that the APC is responsible for their inability to participate in the next election. I hope that they get their house together.
The assurance, Mr. Morka, tonight, the assurance a lot of Nigerians will want to get, because like the popular saying in Yoruba language, that the witch cried today and the child dies tomorrow, is the fact that whatever your party is doing, there are those who are working behind, and whether or not there will be free and fair election is also the fear, and whether there will be an even balanced competition at the polls in 2027. And these are some of the fears that are being envisaged by the ADC. What assurances can your party give? Because it looks like there's an overwhelming sweeping within the political space that your party has done, and your towering figure within the political space seems to be dwarfing and not allowing, suffocating other political parties. Is there any assurances? Is the president worried about that tendency and the narrative of a one-party state? Are you able to do anything about it? It's not a good thing at all to have a narrative hovering over our head that we are running a one-party state.
We are not running a one-party state. What is a one-party state? A one-party state is a legal construct. It's not by wishful thinking. You don't enact a one-party state by just because somebody accuses the government of, trying to enact a one-party state. To enact a one-party state in Nigeria requires very drastic, far-reaching constitutional reforms that will take years if it can ever be accomplished. So let's not joke with that. Second of all, the ADC is not the only political party in Nigeria. The PDP is still a political party. The Labour Party is still a political party. And there are about 16 or 17 or 18 other parties that are still registered in this country that I bet will field presidential candidates in the next election. Now, just today, I was reading a report by Punch suggesting that some members of the opposition, the ADC and maybe some other parties are considering boycotting the next election. Now, I wish them luck. You see, Shehu, I said earlier, and I will repeat, that, when you ask me to assure Nigerians, there's no assurance to give. Because the only way to assure Nigerians by your question is to say to you that the APC will somehow roll back its preparation and roll back its efforts and maybe not even field a candidate or not. Shehu, I'm sorry. I can't give you that assurance that the APC will not participate. We will participate as vigorously as we are required to participate in our democracy. Our constitution gives us the liberty to participate, just like it gives ADC and the PDP and Labour Party and anybody else the opportunity to participate. And you see, these questions should be turned over to the ADC and to the Labour Party and to the PDP to say to them, what exactly are you doing, are you willing to do to bring yourselves into viable capacity to compete in the next general election? That should be the valid question. It's not about APC. Because, you know, so far in this show, you have not told me, apart from the so-called narrative and false narratives, you have not confronted me with any specific, you know, question or allegation, you know, or evidence of the APC's meddlesomeness in these parties. It's all speculative. And speculation is not fact. Fact is fact. Speculation is speculation. Speculation lies in the realm of emotion. Right now, the ADC are being emotionally manipulative. They're being very infantile. And they need to stop and focus on solving the problem. Time is running. We're here discussing this, but the Court of Appeal handed down a decision. INEC, you know, complied with that decision. They are screaming. Now, if I was a member of the ADC, which I'm not ever, you know, intending to be, I would say to them at the leadership, listen, enough of this. Take some responsibility. You are all citizens who have governed this country at the highest levels and performed, quite frankly, very dismally. This underserved Nigeria. The miserable failed to serve this country when they held power. So right now, the only thing they have going is their desperation for power, which is why, as I said earlier, I'm beginning to suspect that this, whatever is going on in the ADC right now, is actually self-sabotage designed to create this state of, you know, crisis in the country, hoping that if anything happens, they can be beneficiary of that thing. But you know, Nigerians are smarter. Yeah. Nigerians know exactly what the ADC is doing. They know that this problem was created by the ADC. They are the authors and will be the finishers of their predicament. Sheung.
On a final note, and quickly, Mr. Morka, the permutations as to the effect that your party, the APC, is largely very unpopular. And for some reasons, you're making a frantic effort in wanting to show that you are in the game. And as if you've heard from opposition voices recently, that if there were elections today, your party will perform dismally poor. And there are those who think that you are not in this election. It's going to be an election between Nigerians and your party, in the sense that you are largely not popular and you might lose this election. And that's the reason why your party does not really want any major opposition in the election. How do you defend these comment by opposition voices who think your party has lost it?
They're hallucinating, Sheung. They're just hallucinations. They need to wake up from their nightmare. Because it's not even a dream. It's more, you know, in the realm of a nightmare that they're having. Sheung, yesterday we had elections. As I said earlier, we won handsomely. We didn't face any competition from any of the opposition parties in the by-election. In the FCT election, that is the most recent election, we also won handsomely. We didn't face any significant opposition in that election. You see, how can you accuse the party that is winning, that has a track record of winning, that won the 2023 election and has won every election, literally won, you know, fantastically in every election since then? And by the way, the voters in these elections, in the by-election and in the FCT election and in the, you know, state constituency elections we've had so far, are Nigerians. They're the same Nigerians who voted for the APC to win. And those who didn't even win anything are accusing those who won of, you know, fear of, you know, the upcoming election. You see, that is a joke. That's just irresponsible talk. So we don't pay any attention to that. We will continue to prepare, mind our business, prepare for the next general election 2027, and hope to win.
Mr. Felix Morka is a lawyer and the spokesperson of the All Progressives Congress. Many thanks, Mr. Morka. I appreciate your time tonight on the program.
Thank you, Sheung, for having me.